I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to college. So my mom said I didn't have a choice. So to despise her, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just finish really early. So that was really my motivation because I wanted to go overseas and play professional soccer. Like that was my dream that I wanted to pursue. But growing up in a household where, you know, you're from an immigrant family, they don't really understand dreams. They're like, dreams? What is that? And so it forced me to pick up something different. And so I filled the void by entrepreneurship. And so when I was running a successful business when I was at school, but my advisors at that time was betting against what I was doing. They would tell me social media is a fad. They would say, oh, this won't be around. Like you need to go get a real job.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the More Rounds podcast. I'm Kim Lewis, CEO and co-founder of Chromix. And today, you guys, we have Abu here with us, the ad expert in the room. If you bring up ads in any entrepreneur circle, somebody's going to mention Abu. Okay. And I am so excited to have him on the podcast today to talk about how he funded his agency. All right. So, but before we get started, let's cheers.
Cheers. Hey.
Awesome. Now, I said agency, but do you even consider it an agency or no?
Nah.
Like, no, girl.
No, I don't. But most people that see it, like anytime you start talking about marketing or you do marketing, they just automatically assume that you run an agency.
Okay.
And so...
so correct me then.
Yeah, so I run a marketing education company. That's what I look at it as now. Because when you say marketing education company, it's around like teaching marketing versus doing marketing. So
more information.
More information based and training of founders. Smarter founders, better businesses. That's sort of like my philosophy.
You know, I'm sorry. You know, I thought about the real. I got better money, better pizza, better my clothes, better my shoes, better. No, I'm kidding. But better founders, better education. So, how'd you get started doing that? Where'd you go to school? What happened after that?
Yeah, so I went to, sometimes I struggle giving them a shout out, but I went to university and at Penn State, and during my time there, I studied supply chain. So I really didn't have anything to do with, what I'm currently doing right now, except the thought process. So I studied supply chain, which is really around how do you connect the dots and how do you build something lean with not a lot of money, or how do you move products from A to B. So in the beginning, the reason why I got into marketing was because when I was there, I started a clothing brand. So when I started a clothing brand, I was using supply chain because I had a manufacturer on campus, I had a manufacturer in Texas, and we were producing these clothes and shirts, and we were making a lot of money doing it. I was running this whole operation out of my dorm room, and so that's where I really used the supply chain, but it really made me focus in on the marketing. How do you sell to people that are not on your campus? And so that's what really led me down this rabbit hole of like, how do you market to people in the West Coast? How do you market to people around the world? And so that's sort of how I got my first inkling on, okay, maybe I could use paid ads.
Wait, so you just found paid ads. Like, did you know it was a thing? Where did you hear about that? Were you in college at the time? Did you graduate?
Yeah, so I first heard about paid ads when I was in high school, but I didn't quite understand it. Like, I'd go online and I'd see these ads, but I didn't really put two and two together. And then I would see people running ads and I'm like, how are they even making money? So it didn't really register to me what exactly was happening until I had to apply it. And so it wasn't until college when I had to actually apply it to the things that I was doing that I kind of understood, like, okay, maybe it might work. But my first year, though, I didn't make any money. Like, it didn't work.
How old are you, Abu?
I'm 30. I just turned 30.
Okay, so you were learning about ads in college when I was in college, too. I was not learning about ads.
Yeah.
I was not even curious about that.
Yeah, well, I was kind of like a strange kid. I would always like give myself these goals over the summer. So that summer, it so happened to be learn Morse code and learn paid ads. How I got to that?
Morse code, bro?
Yeah, well, I don't use that at all.
Tap.
Right. So those are the two skills I wanted to explore more. And I just was like, oh, wow, ads is a thing. But again, I was kind of weird. Every summer, I try to give myself these goals of trying to learn something new.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's That's awesome. I did not have that goal. And so when you left college, did you go work for someone else or did you start running ads immediately?
Yeah, so when I left college, I did college in about like 2.5 years. I kind of finished, or I was taking 35 credits a semester. So again, I was very...
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I was very unusual.
Aren't you supposed to only take 15 to 21?
Yeah, but I would always... my college advisor told me that too, but I told her, I was like, I can handle it, and I was able to handle it. And I had to keep above a 3.5 GPA because I was on an academic scholarship. So I was able to do all of that.
That sounds crazy. Sometimes I be feeling like growing up Black in America, I did myself a disservice. I should have been like an immigrant, bro. Like from an immigrant family, I would have been so much more successful. Like,
well, I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to college. So my mom said I didn't have a choice. So to despise her, I was like, you know what? I'm going to just finish really early. So that was really my motivation because I wanted to go overseas and play professional soccer. Like that was my dream that I wanted to pursue. But growing up in a household where, you know, you're from an immigrant family, they don't really understand dreams. They're like, dreams? What is that? And so it forced me to pick up something different. And so I filled the void by entrepreneurship. And so when I was running a successful business when I was at school, but my advisors at that time was betting against what I was doing. They would tell me social media is a fad. They would say, oh, this won't be around. Like you need to go get a real job. Wow. And so I thought they're wiser, right? They're my advisors. And so I ended up transitioning that business at that time. And then I went to go work for a company. So after I graduated college, officially, like I went to go work for a Big Four consulting firm.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did that last?
The first day I walked in there, I knew I shouldn't have been in there. But I was making money in a sense that, you know, it was like legit, right? Like in their eyes, right? To the people around me. So they're like, oh man, like you're making, you know, this amount of money.
How much are you making?
$65,000 a year.
Okay. I mean, that's not bad. I knew people making 50 coming out of college.
Yeah, it was okay. But, you know.
But when you're paying 40, 50 a year, it's kind of like, wait a minute.
But in my neighborhood, it was such a big deal because one, most of us don't go to college, right? Like two, most of us don't graduate from college. And then three, we don't go get jobs at these type of companies. So to them, it was like a status thing.
Yeah.
They're like, oh my God, like you're doing so well. So I stayed there longer than I should have because I was just trying to satisfy like, man, I'm the first one to do this. So let me just stay in this position.
Yeah. How long did that last? You walked in the first day, knew you didn't belong. Yeah. And was like, I'm going to just stick it out.
I checked out pretty quickly because I could do the work. Like the work wasn't hard for me. Like when you operated and started a business in college and had 16 employees and like the work now you do right out of college, like at this company, it's not hard.
You had 16 employees in college?
In college, yeah.
Oh, bro, I didn't miss that part. Okay.
Yeah, I had 16 employees.
Were they older than you? Were they overseas?
Yeah, they were older. They were older. A lot of them was US based, but they were older than me. And they decided to.
What were they doing?
Yeah, so I was running a whole business when I was in college. So we were selling clothes, but we had people doing different things from packaging. Like my dorm room became inventory, like our warehouse. I would literally sleep in the corner of my dorm room, and we moved the bed out. Like housekeeping helped me move my bed out, and I got in trouble for it later because it was mandatory. I had a bed in my room.
Bro, this
and
is
so
crazy.
It became inventory space, and I would just sleep in the corner. Sometimes I'd be sleeping on inventory, but I'd leave my dorm room unlocked so people would come and like they would take the clothes, and I created partnerships with the U.S. Postal Office so we would circumvent the lines and just drop off the clothing, and then we created a partnership with the people that made the post. So we were doing everything, and then I went to the photo
How much money were you making?
We're making a good amount. Like we were making anywhere from like 10 to 30,000 a month.
Wow.
Right? And
in college.
I'm 19 at this point.
With 35 credit hours. Bro, you crazy.
I didn't sleep. If you ask anybody about me when I was in college, like they're like, no, he didn't. I lived off of Swedish Fish and Red Bulls. That's all.
You wouldn't make no friends because you was working the whole time.
No, I didn't maximize my college experience in terms of social. For me, it was all business.
Do you regret letting go of that business?
I do. I wish I would have got more encouragement, but I think it taught me a lot about, you know, your belief, you know, having this belief in yourself because
conviction
and conviction because no one else is really going to see it. and it may look different. And so it really taught me a lot about that. Like, despite what people are saying, like, what do you believe, you could do with your business and your idea? And so it really taught me a lot. So, I think it happened for a reason, and it really propelled me for the things I would do ahead.
That's so dope. So you know what I realized? If you at 18, 19, 20, you're seeing 30,000 come through in your business a month. That change, it's $250,000 a year. Yeah. That changes your perspective of big money and little money, right? So you get this $65K job. No wonder you checked out day one. It was like, I ain't making nothing, like, compared to what I could be making with my business. And then that means that when you go on to the future to do bigger things, like, 30K a month ain't nothing to you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so now I'm okay with, the first time I saw 25K in my bank account. Yeah. We had 100K after Tim Warner Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. But like the first time I saw my business bank account, 25K, I had to be like 27 years old. That was like 10 years later when you had seen that amount in your bank account. You know what I'm saying? Like, imagine the leaps you can make when you see that big number. Okay.
Yeah.
So you close the business down after getting advice from your advisors. So I'm so sorry for the advisors that you had, bro. My bad, you. And then you go work for $65K a year at this Big Four accounting firm. Accounting firm. Okay.
And there was a short stint in the middle where I traveled overseas. I ended up in Milan, Italy, studying fashion design. And then I would help the students create businesses that were in my class that were designers. So I went over there. And when I was, this was before PwC, because I pushed off the start date. Yeah. And I said, you know what, let me go explore fashion a little bit more, because I was interested in college.
Italia.
And Italy, right? I was like, where can I go? And then I was like, so I went, I enrolled in fashion school out there. I was the worst designer in the class, because those kids, they knew they wanted to be designers when they were kids, right? But I had experience running a business. And so I would go in there and I'm like, these are the best things I've ever seen designed. Like, are you selling these? And in their mind, they're like, no, I got to go to a fashion house. I got to work there. I'm like, no, but you could just open up an online store.
No.
And they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, okay, let me help you. And so I started helping my classmates, and then word got around town. I got hired by this consulting firm in Italy. Again, I don't speak Italian, right? My classes were in Italian, right? The consulting firm I got hired for speaks Italian. My first client, the Versace family, right? So here's like reoccurring theme where I'm like, okay, maybe I should stick on the business side. Like, I'm really, really good at this thing, and maybe I should stick on the business side of things. So I did that short stint there, and then I came over to PwC and I was working there.
What's the short stint? How long were you working for the Versace family?
For about like a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you left to go work at PwC? Bro, what? Yeah. Are you still connected to the Versace family?
They are interesting people. And Italy was hard, right? Italy was hard because they're not used to people. I mean, they know Black culture because a lot of high-end fashion is Black culture.
Right.
But
Black culture
working
is culture.
with Black people is completely different.
Yeah.
And so my experience it was good because of the opportunity, but it wasn't great for me when it comes to personally and interaction and building relationship, because that
I saw House of Gucci, was it like that?
It was, yeah, especially like, it was different. Like it was different, so I didn't have a great personal experience working there, but I did what I had to do professionally. You put on your professional face, but it wasn't a conducive environment for me.
If you've seen any of the content we produced or Chromix online and thought, man, I want to invest in that company, now's your chance. Go to chromix.com/invest and you can become an investor today. Now back to the episode. Bro, this is crazy. You decided to go to Italy Italia, because Y is not in their actual alphabet.
Right.
You went to Italia for a class in fashion designing, ended up connected with the Versace family and helping them. This is crazy. I never knew this about you. Okay, I love this. Okay, but you decide to cut all of that off and go work at PwC for $65K. Okay, cool. Yeah. When did you leave PwC? And when did you start your business? Was that a part of it? Tell me that story.
Yeah, so I was at PwC and I remember the work wasn't challenging. So I would go to the partners and I'd make a big fuss about it. I'm like, I need more work. I need why am I getting paid the same amount as everybody else? like, look at our resume. Like, don't look that we have the same degree, but look at our resume, like the work we've done. And so I'd always get like pushed back. I remember going to one partner one time, and he was like, "Hey, Abu, you have to learn how to tread water before you could swim to the other side." And I'm like, don't you see? Like, there's more out there for me, and so that was something I held on to, and I was like, maybe this is not the place for me. So I would finish all my work, and a few minutes it would take me. So Monday, by Monday afternoon, I finished all the work for the week. Right. So now I'm just working on my own stuff at this point because I'm asking for more work. I'm not getting it. So I'm sitting in the office and I'm like, I have this idea fund. So when I was at PwC, I created 10% of my income would go towards this idea bucket. So any ideas I would have, I would pursue. Okay. And so I'd say I would put 10%, and I was living at home at that time, so it allowed me to save up capital. And so I started pursuing some of my ideas, and a few of them didn't work out.
Wow, which ones?
I wanted to start like a business of fashion.
Okay.
At that time, like before business of fashion was starting, when they're highlighting like, brands in the fashion industry up and coming. So I started a company at that time, like a magazine, online magazine, trying to highlight, up and coming fashion trends, technology, AI, and all that stuff. That didn't work out because I needed writers. I needed to manage writers. It was a whole new world I didn't really understand. And so at PwC, it gave me the fundamentals to, and it gave me the time, right? Because the work wasn't hard for me at that time. And it gave me the fundamentals to, because I would then go sit in on the meetings of the executives, see how they make decision making. So it gave me decision making capabilities. So I was there for about like a few years.
How was you just sitting in with the meetings of the executives? You just asked?
I would ask to take notes.
Okay.
And they love a note taker. They're like, "Oh yeah, come on, like you can take notes." And I
hold everybody accountable.
Right. And I would just go there to see how they came to conclusions, like deductive reasoning, like things I knew I would need as a leader because I was looking ahead. And so I was there for a few years, and then I remember leaving, and they were like, "Do you have a job lined up?" And I was like, "Oh no." And they're like, "So you don't have a plan?" And I'm like,
"I just don't want to be here."
I was like, I got to go figure it out. I told them I needed to go pursue being an entrepreneur. And if it didn't work out, like I'd reapply and stuff like that. But when I left, I didn't tell my mom. But I would leave out every morning the same time she would because that was my routine. I stuck to my routine for 8 months. Not you
lying to your mama.
Yeah.
You was like, I'm going to leave.
Yeah. I had to do what I had to do at that time. Because she wouldn't have understood. Yeah. And so for 8 months, I would go to the local WeWorks. And when I was there, I would meet all these businesses and startups, and I would help them out with just about anything. Oh, you need help with marketing. Oh, you need help with Excel spreadsheets. Oh, you need help with... And I just helped them, and I really enjoyed that moment.
You were helping them for free for 8 months?
For free, yeah. I would just go post up there, meet new businesses, and I would kind of just help them. And I was living off the cash flow of my savings, right? So I said, okay, I got a 6 month,
How much did you have saved up?
At that time from the PwC job itself, because I was living at home, I had saved up maybe like 40-something thousand.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like saving up everything. Like I wouldn't go out on weekends, like I saved everything that I could during those moments.
I have never been able to save money in my whole life. So when people be telling me they saved 25,000, 30, 50, 75, I be like, bro, I have never in my life. That's impressive. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, so I had 6. So for me, I was like, okay, I got 6 months, cash flow if I'm really aggressive, and 12 months, if I'm kind of like, in and out, not as aggressive. So that's sort of like what my mindset was at that time. And during that time period, I was helping these businesses. And so I was 8 months in, and then I got a phone call, and it was from a mentor that was out working on Wall Street. And he said, "Hey, like we're doing this thing here, and I know you got past experience with it at PwC. Like you were doing software consulting there at Salesforce. Like we're doing something similar. Do you want to come work here?" So I was like, I have an opportunity to go to New York, change my scenery. And I'm looking at my cash flow, and I'm like, but if I take this job, I was like, well, how much are y'all paying? They was like, oh, like 130,000. So I'm like, okay, I didn't work for 8 months, and you're about to double, right, what I've made. I was like, okay, I'll try it out. And so I ended up packing up, and then a week later, I was on Wall Street working in New York. And so that was my transition from corporate from entrepreneur to corporate to entrepreneur, now back to corporate. And it was the worst mistake I made, but yeah.
Ooh, the worst mistake. How long were you there?
When I went to Wall Street, I was there for less than a year.
And why do you call it the worst?
Because, again, the same pattern repeated itself. I walked into work day one, and I knew I didn't belong there.
So what I have learned from all my finance friends is that Wall Street is soul sucking in a way. It's like it will, and then you come out a crueler, more angry, more like visceral like person. And then they leave because they're like, I don't like who I've become. I don't like what my life is. And then they get back to themselves and they're more peaceful and blah, 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 all the things. And so is that like your experience working on Wall Street?
I think because I had a past experience with the corporate gig, I knew that it was really the people that made you feel like that. Mm-hmm. And so I came in there I knew I wasn't going to be there long. So I was like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of the city of New York. I'm going to save up my cash, right? And then I'm going to make a decision on what I was going to do. That's why I was there less than a year. I didn't go there with the mindset that I was going to be there like 2 or 5 years or this was my way out. I still felt like deeply like I need to be an entrepreneur. So
did you save like $60,000, $40,000?
Yeah, when I was there, I saved, I think I left right after my bonus. I was like, oh, I appreciate that. Like, and I was able to save like a good amount, maybe like $80K I was able to save.
That's dope. Okay.
Like I was saving everything and I would be cooking and I don't know what I was eating. I was just cook whatever. I just was trying to save cash flow.
Chicken nuggets.
and then when I was like, okay, if I'm about to leave this job, what am I going to do? And then I was like, well, at that time, remember the things I was doing at WeWork, I was helping these entrepreneurs and some of the returns started to pay out. Like helping this woman who had a beauty company go from $500 a month to $50,000 a month. And she would always tell me, and they would always tell me these businesses that I would help. They're like, you're really good at what you do. And I'm like, no, anybody could do this. Like
anybody.
I'm like, anybody could do this. And they're like, no, I think you should so I would be documenting, helping them on social media, and I would create these online case studies. And I was like, well, maybe I should start an agency. Mm-hmm. And so I posted something on my Instagram story and I said, hey, I'm going to start an agency. I'm going to charge you $2,000, a 3-month commitment. I posted on my story and the next morning I had $42,000 secured.
Wow.
So I went to my job and that was my last day. So it was no 2-week notice. It was just like, today's my last day.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So you're like funding your business through experience and saving from your corporate jobs.
Correct. And that's how I started through corporate, right? Saving my money as much as I could, right? I remember I went on a school full academic scholarship, so I didn't come out with any loans.
Oh, that's dope.
So with me, I felt like I could take more risk, right? And so I said, okay, I could take more risk. But even with that, because I come from an immigrant family, you have to financially be able to provide. I'm making more than everyone in my household, right? So I'm contributing a lot of my finances to my mom. That's why I decided to live at home, right? It wasn't because she wanted me to, but it was more so like, why spend double income, an apartment, and because I have to contribute at home. So why not just stay home and maximize and make the most out of that time? And then when I was able to make $42K overnight, I said, well, how much more can I make?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how did I do that? Well, the skill sets that I've built, well, then how much more can I make? And so that kind of just changed the trajectory from there.
You know what I feel like? People will miss this and say, oh, well, as soon as Abu left work, he got people immediately when they wanted to work with him. But they're missing that you worked for free for 8 months.
I worked for free.
For free.
Like I was helping people make, imagine $500,000 to $50,000 a month. Right? I'm helping someone make, hundreds of thousands, $1 million, right? And I'm not getting any of that. I'm just doing it like, oh no, like you got it. Like,
and it wasn't like you had no experience. You had a whole business in college.
Trust me, when I think about those moments back then, I'm like, man, I should have been taking equity. I should have been because these businesses are multi-million-dollar businesses now. But I'm just like, man, I remember you started in your kitchen. I remember you started, at Starbucks. I remember, and so I didn't charge for any of that. That was just me trying to figure out what I wanted to do and like how good was I, and this is the best way to test it out. I was like, okay, go help people for free. If you really want to know how good you are, help them for free and see what value you could add before you charge. Now, when I ran an agency, the one advantage that I had was I was always documenting the free stuff I was doing.
Yeah.
So I literally had case studies and testimonials on the website. So whenever people booked a call with me, it wasn't, can you do this? It was like, how much does it cost? Like, where could I sign up? And so I would document all those free case studies that I was helping these businesses. And that was really like the premise of my agency.
Wonderful. Okay, so I have a question for you. What is an unpopular opinion you have about funding your business and or entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think that unpopular opinion. I think that that the only way to be successful is to go to the VC route. The only reason I say that...
Well, you think that the only way to be successful is to go the VC route?
No, that is... Or... no, I don't believe that. Right? I don't believe that because there are people that are sitting on ideas. They're like, oh, I'm waiting to get funding. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, do you know how many people get funded? Like, I don't think you understand how many people get funded. And so I think that they're almost using that as a crutch to not pursue their ideas and to bring it into life because they're leaning on something that is, it's very hard to actually get funded.
And then the torture that the people who do get funded go through, nobody talks about. And we're hoping to dispel some of that and share something on the podcast. But like, people go through a little bit of emotional, verbal abuse, to get that money that they've gotten. You just don't know it. You just don't know it.
Right. Because it looks like, it's like what media portrays. Like they see people on Shark Tank, like, I got to go on Shark Tank in order to pursue this idea. I got to pitch an investor and they're going to invest in my, and I'm like, that's TV. Like it looks completely different than real life. And I mean, you would know.
Do you know it's harder to get on Shark Tank than it is to get into Harvard? So if you don't think you can get into Harvard, getting on Shark Tank is like that much harder. They interview 40,000 people who apply, right? There are 40,000 people who apply. Less than 100 make it on the show. Less than 100. You know what I mean? Like those numbers are crazy. So, and then even if you make it on the show doesn't mean you get a deal, So like, even half of that is actually probably getting an offer or a deal of some sort. So like Shark Tank should not be your answer to like doing your business. It should not be, but yeah. Okay. So
I had a question for you, but
go ahead. It's your world, homie.
No, I wonder like, when did you decide to pursue Shark Tank? And I guess why? Because at that time you're still operating your business. You were still making sales. Like, why was that? Or what were you, it was just like you were approaching a lot of different things at the same time, and Shark Tank just happened to be one of those things you were auditioning for. Like, why did y'all decide to go that route?
I want to say something that sounds, and this is just because I'm speaking from my personal experience, but the naive entrepreneur wants to go on Shark Tank because you think that's the thing that's going to like make or break your business. And it really isn't, right? You can still be successful and not go on Shark Tank. But I was busy building the business with my 6-month-old at the time. So that was the first year we made $1 million. I had been an entrepreneur for about 4 years before actually going on Shark Tank. But my auntie had told me they were doing a casting call. And I was like, well, what's there to lose? We could just show up and see. And we literally, me and Tim both took the baby to the actual casting call. He cried in the middle of my pitch to the directors. And I was just like, but they ended up liking it. But my point was, it was on my goal list, my vision board, but it wasn't like something I was actively pursuing. It was just something I kind of put into the ether, and then it ended up working. And then we had been on TV shows before, so I knew how to like get on a TV show. You need to be entertaining. If you don't have a good story, you're not entertaining, you're not gonna get on TV. But anyway, that's how we did it.
Okay.
But flipping it back to you, is there anything you want to leave the people with, Abu? A message you have for the folks that you want us to understand?
Yeah, I think there is power in bootstrapping. Right? Like, I think people are always knocking like 9 to 5s, people that work 9 to 5. But I think it's like a mindset shift. I remember one of my friends telling me years ago, she used to always say, hey, Abu, because I would ask her for updates. Hey, how's everything going? She's like, oh, I'm going to my investor today. I'm like, going to your investor? I'm like, who are you talking about? She's like, oh, my job. It's funding my dreams. And so I look at my job as my investor, my first investor. And I was like, wow, that's a perspective shift. And I wish more people will look at their 9 to 5, especially those that are wanting to pursue an entrepreneur endeavor. It's not a knock that you're still at your 9 to 5. It's how you think about it. Look at it as this is your first investor to the thing that you actually want to do. And so, continue going down the path that you're going now. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's okay, right? It's okay.
I love that. I never knock 9 to 5ers because I was one, and you need that. That's where you get your experience from. That's what you're learning. You're learning on the job. They're paying for your education. You're getting paid at the same time. And truth be told, like, we used the $100K in credit card debt to fund our business, and people were like, "How'd you do that?" And I'm like, "We worked good jobs and got good credit for the first few years out of college." So yeah, that job is oftentimes your first investment. Abu, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so again, my name is Abu Fofanah. It's ABU. I'm on Instagram at Abu Fofanah, and also just abufofanah.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, let's do it.
All right, you guys, I'll see you next time on the next episode of More Rounds.